Hello, we are live. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are so excited tonight to be talking about the incredible Fat Girls Hiking. And we're going to be going into all the nitty gritty. You're going to get all of your questions answered and hear from incredible Summer and our conversation partner, Sally. But first, I'm going to introduce the novel Neighbor because that is where we are presently, even though we are virtual. And then I'll introduce both Summer and also Sally, and then we'll get going. So the novel Neighbor is a women-owned independent bookstore in St. Louis, Missouri. We sell all genres of new books and carefully curated gifts for readers and their little ones. And we are just so excited. This is exactly the type of book that we love featuring and we love sharing. And so today's gonna be great, and we're so happy that you're joining us. So first up is our conversation partner, the incredible Sally Brooks. Sally Brooks is a writer, a podcast host, a national touring stand-up comedian, and she lives in Atlanta, Georgia. So thank you for joining us from the Eastern Standard Time. She is the co-host of Dumb Love, a podcast about the dumb things people do for love, named a top podcast by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Her album, Brooks Was Here, debuted at the top of the iTunes comedy charts. And according to Pandora Radio, Sally Brooks unleashes a relentless wit on her debut album. A lifelong wanderer, Brooks is currently working on a memoir about the Appalachian Trail through hike. So right on topic. And our lady of the evening, Summer Michaed-Skog, is the founder of Fat Girls Hiking, a hiking community centered on a body-positive mission to get folks of diverse backgrounds on trails, no matter their size, ability, or experience level. With more than 24,000 Instagram followers and 29 and counting official chapters across the country, FGH continues to grow by the day. Trails, not scales, is their motto, and it's all powered by Summer's grassroots efforts, tireless work ethic, and gregarious, welcoming attitude. Not only is Summer a self-starting leader of a vital community, she also holds a degree in creative writing and is a photographer in her spare time. So all of these incredible things, I'm going to bring on Sally and Summer. I'm going to stop talking, and you all can hear it from the incredible women themselves. So here we are, Summer. Here we are, Sally.
Yay! Thank you, Cassie.
Of course. Have a great conversation, and we'll be back at the end to answer some audience questions. So if you are watching and you're like, A, how do I order this? B, how do I answer a question? Ask a question. The second one is in the comment section, and the first one's on our website.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. Summer.
Sally.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I sent you a message on Instagram, kind of fangirled a little bit, but I just want to say thank you so much for writing this book. It's a great resource. Like it's just like there's a practical side to it. There's a practical guide to hiking, but it's also just like, it's a how-to for everyone, how to see yourself in nature, like how to see yourself as an outdoors person. And I think it's just like an inspirational guide. I love it so much. I love your powerful writing. I love the stories of the Fat Girls Hiking community. And so I just want to say first, thank you for writing this book. I obviously I have no thoughts on it. But let's start at the beginning. I want to know, like, how did you start hiking? Let's begin at the beginning. How did you start hiking? Were you a kid?
Well, okay. So when I was a kid, I played outside kind of a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
There's 5 kids in my family, and we would just go outside, use our imaginations, and play. But I feel like I lost a lot of that in my teen years, even to my late 30s, honestly, mid-late 30s. I don't know. I just didn't really have an interest in it. There was nothing really. I didn't want to be dirty or sweaty, and I didn't like bugs. And I grew up in Minnesota, and I just hated the humidity. The weather was not appealing to be outside and to me. And so my love of hiking really started when I moved to Portland. And I was so amazed by the nature there. And so I kind of started as a a nature tourist, which no shame in my game, and I still am like this. But places where you can drive to see a beautiful view, or an overlook, or just things that were easily accessible from a car. And that's really kind of what started the beginning of my interest, at least, not
Mhm.
not my like disgust of nature.
Right.
That kind of switched a little.
You're like, okay, I could see going out in this.
Yeah, I could maybe go a little deeper than the parking lot.
Like there's not a swarm of black flies here.
Exactly. And then it just, I went on a few hikes with friends in Portland, because everybody in Portland, when I moved there, I was like everybody hikes there. I was shocked. And so I went on a few hikes, but I wasn't really into hiking until I started dating this woman, and she would just we would go on drives on a Sunday just to go drive somewhere pretty. And then she would be like, okay, let's go walk down this trail. And I would be like, I'm wearing nylons, tights and a mini skirt, but I would go because I wanted to this. I was sweet on this person. I wanted to be a good sport,
Like, oh, you like hiking? I like hiking.
Sure, I could do this. And I didn't really like it at first, to be honest.
Yeah.
I really just was very oh, what am I doing? But something obviously switched. Clearly, I started this community and wrote a whole book on it. So it's not something that I've always done, but
yeah,
it is a very big part of my life now. So
yeah, I related so much to you talking your book about being as a young person, just kind of not feeling like you had a place in competitive sports, or the kind of sports that kids are shuffled into, like dancing or soccer or whatever, because you were not thin enough, or you didn't have the right body type, or you were too poor. Those things I think that is so many kids. It was just definitely me. And I'm wondering how you went from that feeling excluded and outside to where you talk about seeking joyful movement and finding this sense of belonging in nature. Was there, I'm guessing it was just an evolution, as with anything, or rather than just a switch that flipped, or maybe that's less of a question, more of an observation than a question.
No, totally. I think that people experience things like team sports and in such vastly different ways. And I think the only stories we really hear about when it comes to things like sports, or it's all about competition, right? And being the best of everyone. And I think that I started to realize that I could just be the best me. And I didn't I never really liked the competitiveness. I don't really like competitive games, even board games. I don't know. I don't like the pressure of winning, it doesn't, I don't know what, it just feels uncomfortable to me. I don't really like that. So hiking obviously is not a competitive sport, and I think I started to listen to myself and my body and what I need, and still do these things that are challenging to me and movement wise, but not having to be you don't win, no one wins at hiking, and
right.
I think that but it is athletic. I think that's the thing that that I didn't really think about when I first started hiking. It's it is an athletic thing, but it doesn't have to be competitive. So that's what's really appealing for me.
Yeah, I think that, hiking was the first thing that I was oh, I feel good at this, and strong and competent, those kind of things. And the first athletic thing that I really felt like that, because I wasn't comparing myself, right? I was just did I get to the top of that mountain, or did I go as far as I could? Great. Yeah. So you've lived in Oregon for a couple years, yeah? Or more than a couple?
Yes, I've lived in Oregon for, oh goodness, since 2008, I believe. Yeah, 2008, I moved to Oregon. So
do you have a favorite hike on the
near,
a favorite hike near the one that you do over and over?
Oh yes. I have many hikes that I do. I love doing the same hikes over and over, especially in different seasons, because there's so many different things to see. Even if you do a hike that's an out and back hike, I'm sure you've seen this, where you'll see totally different things. You're oh my gosh, I didn't notice that tree on my way out to that waterfall, but on the way back I was wow, how could I have missed this magical tree, So I do like seeing similar, like same places in different weather and different times of year, because there's something familiar about it when I'm not like worrying about like, you know, how far it is, or that familiarity feels like comforting in a way that I can kind of just relax on the hike and I know where I'm going. But my favorite hike near where I live out on the coast in Oregon is to Short Sands Beach. It has literally everything. Like, I love to go on hikes where I'm going to see stuff that I really like to see in nature.
Yeah.
Like
same. Yeah.
big trees. I love water. I like creeks and rivers. And I love the ocean is my wife. So I got to see my wife, and I got to see some moss because I love to pet it. And so any hike that has those things are like waterfalls, of course, are beautiful. And I actually review that hike in the book because, or the ambassador reviews the hike. And it's just, it's very busy. It's very busy because it is so amazing.
Well, of course, right?
But, you know, that's okay because I live here year round and I can go on a Tuesday in the middle of winter and no one's there.
Yeah.
You know?
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, you talk a lot in the book about some like beyond just like the physicality, the physical benefits of hiking, like some of the mental health benefits, other like intangible benefits. Like what are those for you? Like, what do you think, like beyond like, oh, just a good heart rate raiser? Like, what does hiking do for you? Like beyond that, beyond physicality?
It's like, so I always say like hiking or nature is like my church because, and I think that a lot of people can kind of understand it in a way. I'm not religious, but it really offers me this space to, heal, honestly. I think that there's a lot of hard things in the world, and it's really this like peaceful place where I can sort of heal from that. And honestly, like, I don't know like nothing brings me as much joy as like pretty simple things. Like, I saw a lot of wildflowers today and I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many more than last time when I was on this trail. And that just like makes me so happy, and in a way that like nothing else really does really fulfill me in that way, to see, because it's like nature is always changing. So there's like this element of like surprise in some ways, and then there's just, I don't know, it just feels very comforting to me to just be in a forest and see what's around you, just being open and observing and being curious about what's around you. And it just makes me feel really grounded and really like peaceful. I just don't know how else to describe it.
No, I'm like, just yes. Like agreeing 100%. I feel the same way. I was recently on a Facebook page and people were talking about grieving. And someone was saying like, oh, I'm really having a really hard time right now. They lost their father. Like, what do you do to get past these like days where you just can't? And to a person, everyone said nature. Like, that was what they did. Go for a walk, take some time out in nature. And I know that's what I do. Like, anytime I need to think, like, it's just, you know, I mean, there's all sorts of science too behind it, you know, that your blood pressure lowers, you're less stressed the minute you see like something green. So
it's so cool.
So what was it about your hiking experiences that led you to start your community, Fat Girls Hiking? Do you want to talk about a little bit about what Fat Girls Hiking is, and then talk about how you started it?
Yeah. So I started Fat Girls Hiking because I was hiking a lot, and you know, I was interested in. I'm a photographer, so Instagram was just sort of starting in like 2015 is when I started Fat Girls Hiking. And I was, you know, following different hiking accounts because I really just wanted to like see different trails or like what other people were doing outside and stuff like that. And it was really disheartening because there was obviously a very specific type of person that was like always featured on these like outdoor hiking or nature accounts. And I just felt like, you know, obviously there's other people outside doing these things, but they were never shown. So it really just started as like a representation that I wanted to see, So I started just posting about hikes I was doing or places I was camping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I was using the hashtag Fat Girls Hiking, and then just noticed that other people were using the hashtag as well. And so something that started as just, me and what I was doing, it just became I'm going to feature these other people who are doing hikes as well. And then it just grew and grew from there. And like all these people from all over the world really were using the hashtag, and I was featuring people. And then people started saying like, oh, that would be so cool to go on hikes with you. Like, you should lead hikes. And I was like, I'm a beginner. Like,
right.
I don't know how to lead a hike. I'm just barely figuring this out for myself. But I took a chance, and I started some hikes in Portland, and eventually people started showing up for them.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. And and then it just really snowballed from there. People were like, oh, I want hikes in where I live. And so then that's what started with the chapters, and it's really just grown from there. But and I have grown, through the process and learned so much through the experience. Like, I don't have actual experience except for what I've been doing here. But I feel like I've been doing a pretty good job. I mean,
right. I'm like, what other experience do you need? Yeah, I loved your your first, the first thing I made a note is in the first paragraph of your book where you talk about having imposter syndrome of are you an expert hiker? Should you be writing a book? Whatever. And they're like, wait, I have something to add about this, right? I have something. And it's so true. It's like, how often do we just take ourselves out of the game because we think, oh, somebody else is the expert? But you've built this community. You're the only one who knows how you've done that. And it's really amazing. One thing you talk about a lot is kind of the evolution of Fat Girl Hiking's community guidelines, how you kind of started as in a more body positivity space, and have kind of evolved from there. Can you talk about where you started and where you see the kind of mission and guidelines now?
Yeah, and that has been honestly one of the trickiest things, because I think the whole thing is I wanted to hike with people who were who were similar. I mean, I wanted to meet different people, obviously, but
right.
I wanted to have this baseline that nobody's gonna be a jerk to me because I'm queer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to invite people who are like that. So I had to it was really tricky to figure out.
Right, because you're we're inclusive, but
not that. Yeah. Right. So it's how do we be inclusive without inviting bigotry into our community? So right. I mean, that's really the bottom line is I want to have a space where I feel safe and comfortable with the people that I'm inviting into the community and people who are a part of the community. So it really did start as body positivity. And it's what is that, or what was that back then?
Right.
What it was back then is very different than what people think of it now. And so I think people just think because I've seen weight loss ads that are body positive. I'm loving my body into this smaller form.
Right. I love my body, but it should change.
It is, yeah. So I think that naturally had to evolve, and it really just came down to I am a feminist, and I want to have a space where we can just be who we are in anyone who is of any race, class, religion, gender. What I want everyone. I really want people of all sizes. It's Fat Girls Hiking is not just for fat girls. It's
right.
I identify. The reason it started as Fat Girls Hiking is because I identify as a fat girl. And, but it's really open to all genders. So the community guidelines are really just to keep our community safer from trolling, from weight loss and diet talk. And that really hard one at the beginning, because people are cool, I'm also a fat person hiking, but they might want to talk about their weight loss journey. I don't want to say you know, I want fat people to have spaces where they can feel comfortable to just be who they are without that being a factor.
Right.
And I think there's so many places on the internet and in real life where you can get support around your weight loss journey.
Do you mean everywhere?
Yeah,
Literally anywhere else.
One little space that I'm carving out for other people who feel the same way about diet culture. And that's really what it is now. Is like, we're like trying to, you know, have like one little spot where we know we can go on a hike and no one's going to be like, you know, I don't know, body shaming themselves, or, you know, go out for a meal after a hike. No one's going to be like food shaming others or themselves or whatever. And that's just really important to me to have that kind of guideline, those kind of guidelines within the you know.
Did you have pushback on those, like from community members? Of course, I don't know why I asked. Like, did anybody disagree with you on the internet?
The evolution of it all, right?
Yeah.
A big one for me was I was leading a hike in Wyoming, and it was a really good, it was like 10, 12, 15 people, maybe. It was a good sized group. And it was actually a really fun hike, you know. I thought it was a really fun hike, at least. And I got a message after the hike a few days later from someone, because you know, before the hike I always say, like, you know, I say our community guidelines, and I said, you know, I'm queer or whatever in my introduction. I'm not shy about it,
because it's the facts.
One part of me. And this woman messaged me and said that she was uncomfortable that I said that, and that no one was there looking for a date. So I was like, wow.
I'm incensed.
Me neither. Isn't that fun?
You're like, I was just there to hike. What were you doing?
So, you know, that was a really good learning experience for me. I mean, obviously it kind of wasn't fun to go through that and have that kind of stuff directed at me, but I mean, it's kind of to be expected. And, you know, I realized, okay, well, I need to be more explicit in the guidelines and let people know that this is a space for queer people. I am a queer person who is founder of this space. So, so that was a good learning experience. And then I had somebody who I had featured on the page, and who was a fat woman, and I didn't know, but she was on a weight loss journey, and she had messaged me and said that because I wrote a blog about weight loss comparison photos in social posts and how they're harmful to fat people, and and she just was like, there's no place for me then. I don't even belong with Fat Girls Hiking because I am on a weight loss journey, and listed all of her reasons. And like, I'm like, do your thing. Great, lose weight. I actually don't even care what you do with your body. I think you should do whatever you want with your body. I believe in body autonomy. All I'm saying is, when you're in this space, in person, in community, or you're on our website, or you're on our social media or whatever, just don't talk about that there. Yeah. That's all I'm asking. Do whatever you want. Yeah. You know, so there has been, those are just two examples.
I'm sure there are many more.
You know, there was somebody who was like, oh gosh. I mean, I could go on and on about trolls on social media.
Oh, can you talk a little bit about, well, tell this, and then I want you to tell, because you talk about this in the book, about your policy on trolls, like how you deal with trolls, because I feel like we could all learn from this, because it's great.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So this particular troll, she said, she like commented on a Facebook event, and said, this, like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Imagine if there was a skinny girls hiking, you know, just like going on about how it
like,
was,
you mean hiking?
So offensive or something. And I don't remember. I think I was maybe still in my like, oh, I'll try to be nice and engage with people and like think that people have good intentions. And so I think I engaged with her, and then it was clear that she didn't have good intentions. So I just like, what I did was I took a screenshot of what she said. Yeah. I just posted it, and I said, this is because I want people to know like what I have to deal with, just to like keep the community going and to keep it a safer space for fat people. So I just said, this person said this, whatever. And I guess, and I think looking back, like maybe her name shouldn't have been there, right? So this is
Right.
like the learning process.
Right.
But then people went on to troll her back, and she a licensed massage therapist, and that wasn't good. She was like threatening to sue me. It was like so much for just posting a comment more publicly than she had posted.
Yeah, that she had made.
She had made that comment. Yeah. So anyways, not great, but like those are so few, and I changed my settings now, so I don't get a lot of that anymore. Only people who follow me can comment on my social media. I don't have a direct link to my email from Facebook anymore, because Facebook is like the cesspool in my experience for trolls. But it's very few and far between, thankfully, and I always get lots of support when I post about it, or like, you know, and so like that sort of like camaraderie and connection, and then I can kind of like work myself out of like the shame that comes up when people say stuff like that, and to know that I have a lot of support behind me is very meaningful.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, as I think probably a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot of people, I don't know. I've been on my own journey of, you know, just kind of trying to deprogram from diet culture and learning about, you know, like just how harmful anti-fat bias is. And what do you think you would, I just like reading about you having a space like free from diet culture and weight loss talk, and just to like be out in nature with other people is like, feels like liberating. It feels like revolutionary. And like to disassociate movement from weight loss, you know, is just like, for some, you know, it's like, it's just revolutionary. What advice would you give someone who's like kind of just starting their own journey? Like for somebody who's like, hears you use the word fat and is uncomfortable, or just kind of learning about diet culture, where would you suggest they start?
Gosh. I mean, there are so many good books. Oh, I could recommend a book.
Yeah. I would also maybe recommend it. Oh, you have this book? Oh my gosh.
My iPad is actually sitting on a stack of this book. So.
Yeah, well, as it should be. I would not blame you if the entire bookshelf behind you was just all your book. That's what I would do if I had a book.
Maybe one day. I should have sent me more, obviously.
Right.
But no, there are so many great books about, you know, diverting from diet culture. Like now there's so much. There are people who do workshops on and like there's articles, there's, you know, I think it's really important to like, you know, people are on social media a lot. I mean, I am more than I should be. So
social media, I've never heard of it.
So like, what do you see? Like, I think that for me, it was really empowering to like, you know, diversify your feed. So like people who have similar and different body types than you follow, and like I feel like it normalizes in my brain that like there are more than what you would see. Like when I was growing up in like the 90s and I was a teenager, it's like we had magazines, you know, we didn't have a lot of TV shows and movies, we didn't have social media, we didn't have the internet, you know,
right?
So how do we see the things that are like more true to like who we are, you know, not just unattainable like beauty or body standards. So I think like just exposing yourself to more images of people who are fat, and the word fat.
It is amazing how like your brain just all of a sudden is like starts changing, right? Like your perception of that, your perception of yourself, like is really it is amazing. Just like what you feed yourself is really what you're, you know, it's what you're growing on. So
it's so true. It's so nice, but I think I also want to say like it's really hard. It is really hard to untangle from diet culture because it is so ingrained in our culture, and so ingrained in like all of us, you know. And so it's like trying to, it's like almost like you have to be able to recognize it when you see it, you know. And
Yeah.
so, and like, so it's almost like I love like analyzing pop culture. It's like talking shit through movies and stuff like that, you know, like, oh, you know, because it really helps me to recognize that this is everywhere. And you don't if we don't think about it, if we're not like sort of aware that it's there, I think it's in, you know. And it's really hard to untangle all of that, but it is. So it's not like you're gonna be like, oh, I'm at this no diet culture utopia, you know, because it's already within us. So like giving ourselves a lot of grace with those thoughts or about ourselves or others, and like being able to like recognize when, you know, those thoughts come up, and, you know, remind yourself that like that's not actually, you know, a true statement. Like, like having like bad body image days. It's like I have bad body image days too. Everybody does, even though like I do this work all the time and I'm constantly like analyzing and talking about and writing about this stuff. It's still, it's because it's so a part of everything. It's so enmeshed. Like I could just go somewhere where like maybe a chair doesn't fit me, and that can be such a short source of shame. And then like all of those things that I was told my whole life about my body, what it can do or what it looks like or what size it is, then all of that stuff kind of comes back up, you know. And really like nature has been the place where I can like let that go, you know. You know, nature doesn't care what size my body is, or like if I'm in pain and I can't do the whole hike, that it's
not like meet and finish.
So, but I want to go back to you talking about the word fat, because this has been a huge thing since I started Fat Girls Hiking. Is like, I'm always like, are they gonna understand when I use the word fat? You know, it's like depending on who I'm talking to, because it is tricky, because some people it's a word, right? It's a descriptive word like tall, right? But it has so much shame attached to us because of the way our culture is, and the way it treats fat people. But for me, it's really like taking the power out of it, to destigmatize it. It's like empowering to me to use the word in a positive way, to use it, or even in a neutral way, just like it's not a bad word.
It's not shameful. It's
not shameful. And I think it's really important to remind people of that. But some people are still offended by the word, and they, even if they are fat, some fat people plus size, we could say plus size, some plus size people aren't comfortable using the word fat. It's not like I use it as it's part of my identity. It's like part of who I am. But not everyone is like that. And I think that's totally fine. But I think that, you know, I think it's important to like, for people to look at that. Like, why is that? Why does the word make you uncomfortable?
Why are you equating that with bad?
Exactly.
That's amazing. Sorry. I'm like, well, where's my question then? My next question. I have so many for you. So one of the things I really love about your book is that you feature, I feel like I keep saying that. One of the things I really love, one of the other things I really love about your book is that you feature so many of the Fat Girls Hiking community members, like profile, kind of talking about, you know, the way that they got into hiking and their different experiences. And I'm wondering, like, what kind of inspired you to include these community stories in your book? Like, how did you kind of go about choosing what to include? And I just also, one thing that struck me so much is that so many people talked about like not seeing themselves represented outdoors before starting to get outdoors, and having that be a barrier to them feeling like they were even allowed to hike or allowed to be outside.
Well, the thing is I don't want to be the center of Fat Girls Hiking, even though I am. And like, it's not about me, right? It's about the community. And that's really like what I want it to be about. And so when I first started leading the hikes in Portland, I wanted more representation. So I started a blog on Fat Girls Hiking website where I would just, somebody who I, people who I knew who I would go hiking with, or just fat people who were doing cool things, I like would, interview them and take photos of them. And it really started from there. But then as the Instagram kind of stuff grew, I made friends with so many different people all across the world, really, but mostly in the US. And it was just really important to me that, like, obviously we have some things in common because fat and we like hiking or like being outside, but like we also bring so many differences to our experiences in the outdoors. So I just really wanted to like uplift these people who are like people that I've connected with through the Fat Girls Hiking, and hear what they have to say. Like, because I know, like, I love listening to people's stories. Like, that's my favorite part about Fat Girls Hiking is like when I'm leading a group hike and you're just like on the trail, going, walking, whatever, and you're just chatting and getting to know people. And that is my favorite part. I love that. I love meeting people and getting to know people and hearing their story. And so that was very important to me that they were part of the book. Because they're amazing,
and it really is. It's just really, I love that all of these people who a lot of them felt like I'm not represented in the outdoor industry.
Yeah.
And now like giving them their voice and just like recognizing like how so many people feel that same way.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, so like, on that note, like I think there is a perception that like being an outdoorsy person is kind of reserved for certain people, right? For like cis het white thin people in very specifically thin bodies, right? I know I through hike the Appalachian Trail and I still don't think of myself as outdoorsy, like I still am like what do you think are like specific behaviors that kind of perpetuate this perception? Like, do you find, so that's one question. Then also, do you see actions, like people taking actions, like when you're out on hikes or on the trail that also create kind of like an exclusionary atmosphere on like while you're hiking?
Yes. I know, it's so true. There can be a lot of gatekeeping in the outdoors. Absolutely. Where like people saying like you have to have certain gear, or defining what a real hike is, and I just think that's just bullshit, like somebody decided that and people just followed that idea. Like, we can change that idea. Like, if you spend time outdoors, you're outdoorsy. If you that's it. Like, that's the bottom line. And no matter how you do it too, it could be like sitting in your yard. It could be like whatever. Like, when I was a nature tourist, when I first started like figuring out that I liked nature, like that is completely valid. And I think that, like, when we gatekeep people, or we like say like, oh no, you have to do it this certain way, then we're putting a barrier there for people to access natural spaces and nature, which is very important to all of us. And I think that opening up the doors for more people is really meaningful, because it's not only like about their personal growth and the personal gain that we get from being outside, but it's also like when more people love nature, they're going to protect it, right? So it's like a bigger picture thing too. It's like, if you love something, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, like let's just cut all these trees down, we don't need them. We're going to be more apt to be like, I really like these spaces, so I want them to be around for my, for future generations.
Yeah.
That.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about your writing process. First of all, I know that you're not currently in your van, but you generally live in a van. First of all, we should acknowledge that you are in a yurt. Yes. And everybody is jealous.
I am in a yurt, yes.
Yeah.
And I've been sort of this is kind of like a studio space essentially, for just to have another place to hang out aside from my Sprinter, because it's a big van, but it's a little too cozy sometimes,
Right. So okay, so your van is has a name. It's
Tawanda.
So how did you name your van?
Well, I love fried green tomatoes.
Oh yeah.
Favorite movies. And yeah, Tawanda Tilly is Tilly because I live in Tillamook County. So
Yeah. I love it.
Tawanda Tilly.
I'm so intrigued by van life and really am very interested. I've been trying to talk my partner into getting a van and hitting the road.
Go for it. It's really fun. I mean, it's really challenging long term, but like you can those like camper vans for and just to try it out because I mean it's really a way to you to be like more like closer to nature in a different way. It's like a little easier than tent camping, you know.
Yeah.
I have chronic pain, so like having a real bed when I'm camping is like vital to like my ability to like do hikes and things like that. So go for it. Try it. It's really fun. It's really fun.
I love it. So we have to I have so many more questions, but they're telling me to wrap it up so other people can ask questions.
Let's do a part 2, Sally.
Yeah, I know. So I have one I just want to read a line from your book that made me so happy. So in your chapter that you talked about living your van, you talk about how the van helped you escape from and heal from an abusive relationship. And you end that chapter by saying, most of all, I feel like I'm really living. I cultivated a life I dreamed of with joy at the center of it. I had no idea that dreams actually came true. I'm going to cry. And I'd love to end by you talking about like, what are your next dreams? Like, what are you dreaming about now? Like, what is next for Fat Girls Hiking? What do you hope the group will accomplish or become? And what are you working on? Like, it doesn't have to be a work thing, but what are your next dreams?
I'm kind of figuring it out. You know, it's pretty weird. Honestly, like I've been kind of a dreamer my whole life.
Yeah.
And, I have to say it's kind of weird when your dreams come true in a way because you're like, okay, now what? Like,
right.
So dream come true, like, you know, but I don't know. I don't know what's next, to be honest.
No press. You don't have to do anything next. You wrote a book. You're living it.
Yeah. I'm kind of just like being in the moment of like the book, all of the book stuff and how amazing that's been and just all of the amazing feedback I've been getting from everybody about it. And I want to live, in a quiet place in the forest. Like that. I don't know how that happened, but like I see like a cabin, with a wood stove and, just like quiet in the forest. But
yeah. I can see you walk out on your moss-covered lawn and visit your stream. I'm manifesting that for you.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do a collective, Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I think that now it's time for other people to ask questions.
Okay.
I just wanted to pop on to manifest.
Yeah. Through my manifestation. Let's do it.
We just have a few audience questions, and then Novel Neighbor always does a quick this or that before we wrap up. So in the book, there are a bunch of profiles, Summer, and there's also there's just so much different types of content in it. So we were wondering, was there any part that got edited out? Are there any parts that you still think about that, you've talked about on social, but isn't in there? Like anything else that you wish you could add or still?
I think there's some ways, yes, I feel like there could be an expanded version of this book in some ways. And somebody who's in the book told me I misspelled her last name, and I was like so mortified. But it happens, and I did my best, right? I don't think honestly, I was surprised in the writing process that my editors didn't do more editing. I was like, am I that good of a writer? Or just like they like it? Yes, they just like it.
It's beautiful.
But there's some parts I like when Sally said earlier about my van life, that was probably one of the harder things to write, because sort of like what started me in starting van life was leaving an abusive relationship. And so I was really nervous to write about that. And are there going to be repercussions to putting that out there? And, all of that kind of made me nervous. But I think it's important to be honest and open and be authentic and just to be myself. And I know that other people might see themselves in that also. And anytime I say or talk about something that's really vulnerable to me, and it feels like people always connect with it. So I just have to remind myself of that. So
absolutely. And I mean, I'm Sally, I think that we've both done a fair amount of fangirling this season.
Yeah.
Obviously, yes. Fun question. Do you have a playlist for while you work and write or while you hike? Do you have any go-to music that you definitely go to every time? And what is it?
I'm very obsessed with Lizzo. I mean, obviously to do on Saturday Night Live. I do. I love music. I used to be a DJ when I lived in Portland, and I love music. Like, I am not musical at all. I wish I love karaoke often at Fat Girls Hiking group campouts. I have this karaoke mic. Fire karaoke, and everyone's like, nah. I'm like, come on, I'm the worst singer. But yeah, music is so important to me, and I have playlists for so many different things. I'm really I've been watching the show Nashville recently. And so I've been really getting back into country music, and I like all genres. I'm not really into metal, but yeah, I do have playlists that for everything, really. I really love sad music. Like when it's raining, I'll be like, let's put on a sad playlist. Sad girl today. And then I love pump me up music. I love 90s hip hop, and the Dixie Chicks are. I have 2 CDs in the van, and they're both Dixie Chicks. So
I have tickets to see the Chicks in St. Louis this summer, and I'm very excited.
They're so good live. They're just I cry and I get goosebumps. Every time I've seen them, they're amazing.
Sally, do you have a go-to?
Do I have a go-to?
Typically writing playlists?
No, writing is silent. Writing, we have to be completely quiet. Hiking, I love my friend Aaron's brother made us all these hiking playlists when we were 20 years ago, and I still those are the songs that I listen to, and it was a lot of Bob Dylan, a lot of 90s hip hop, Flaming Lips, just a real random assortment. But anytime I hear one of those songs, I'm right back in the mountains, and I love it.
Oh, I love that. I feel like I listen to a lot of instrumentals when I hike. And
do you?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need to surmount to something. Okay. Last question. Then we're gonna do some rapid fire either ors that were silly and fun, and we have a good time. So, what are because we got both questions and I'm combining them into one. What are other works that you think are super important about either other works that inspired you to write this or to I don't know, embrace this entire community? And then what are you reading right now?
I love reading. I'm super obsessed with books. And what inspired me? Okay, so I love the book Shrill by Lily.
Yes.
And I think she's a phenomenal writer. And I love the book Fatso. It's Marilyn Wan, and when I was in high school, I used to make zines. If you know what zines are, they're I was into Riot Girl and making zines. And she made some zines, and I had her zines, and then her book came out, and I was like, oh, she's amazing. I love that book. And so those are, I would read anything about fat subjects, feminist subjects, those all, I love poetry. So many things really inspire my writing, and nature, obviously. But what am I reading right now? Oh, I just got a poetry book. You Better Be Lightning by Andrea Gibson. And I always read like 5 books at a time because it's like, what mood am I in right now, you know? And I'm also reading your fat friend, Aubrey Gordon.
Oh, well, we don't talk about when we talk about fat.
Yeah.
I just was gonna say, it's so good.
That's so good. It's so good. And it's, you know, it's hard. So I like don't always want to.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's tricky to like just continuously. But you know, I think that's it. What about you, Sally? What are you reading?
Oh man, I wish I could tell you that I'm reading literature or something actually useful, but I'm just reading British detective series, like cozy mysteries. I'm just, I'm just checking out. I'm watching a lot of like Great British Bake Off and listening to just and just soothing, comfortable things.
Comfort reading is good and great.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's do some rapid fires and then we'll say good night for the evening. But for both of you, first question, mountains or waterfalls?
Mountains.
Water.
I mean, you're like, don't make me choose.
Oh, so why do I have to choose waterfall?
Because that's how the game works. Hiking in dresses or hiking in pants?
Dresses.
Pants.
I hope this is opposite the whole way through. Summer or fall?
What'd you say?
Summer or fall?
Fall.
Fall.
Oh, great. Yeah. Summer, I feel like
it's my least favorite season.
It's really hot, so I get it. Camping or glamping?
Camping.
Glamping.
Would you rather have a difficult hike that you feel like refreshed after, or would you rather have like a pretty good hike, like a hard hike that ends in a beautiful view, or like a nice hike that is like nice all the way through but not super hard?
I would the nice all the way through.
That's so funny. I'm like, I want the view.
This is great. I'm having so much fun. And then
or we'd be best friends if we were met in person. We would just go opposite ways.
We talked about your playlists, but if you had to choose, would you rather listen to music or listen to audiobooks?
Music.
Like in general?
Like while you're hiking, but you could do in general.
Audiobooks. Yeah.
So
I know.
This is incredible. I love that you're kindred spirits and also very different people.
Oh my God.
Thank you both so much for joining us this evening. It's been a really, really great event, and we've had so many folks watching and so many folks commenting, and I know that this book is going to mean so much to so many. So if you are watching and you are not already part of the Fat Girls Hiking community or don't already know, this book is incredible, and it is available at thenovelneighbor.com or here at the Novel Neighbor, which is where I'm sitting. And we are obsessed with Summer and with this book. And so we are so grateful that you did this event with us tonight. Thanks so much, Summer.
Thank you so much for having me. It was like, this is my first stop on my book tour.
Yes.
For like setting it off right. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so glad to hear it. And Sally, thank you so much for being an incredible conversation.
Thanks. This was fun. Yeah, I'm so grateful that you guys introduced me to Summer and Summer's book, and this was really fun. So thank you guys.
Yay. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you're not catching this live, you are welcome to still leave comments and welcome to still engage, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much.